Okay, can you hear me? You can hear me. I can hear myself. Good. So, good morning, everyone. Thanks for making it to the first one of the day. Who was drunk last night? It's the ones who are here were not drunk last night. Everyone else comes to the next talk. So, thank you very much for joining us for the AYON suite today. We're going to have quite a full day, and I'm hoping you're going to attend some of the other talks I'll tell you about a little bit later. But we're going to open up with, well, the short straw, the talk where no one comes in the morning and no one cares about. So we're going to open up with essentially where AYON as a platform is right now, what we've done within the last year. I'm not sure how many of you have been here last year. Was anyone at the presentation about AYON last year when we were launching 1.0? Good, thank you. And another question before I jump in, so I know the audience. How many of you have tried AYON or have had any run-ins with AYON or kind of are well aware of it? Okay, good. And people who have no idea what they're going to have a look at, but they saw it in the program and were like, that's an interesting name, let's have a look. Good, good, very good. So I'll try to even it out for the audience. So we're going to have a look where we are, what we've done in the last 12 months, and where we're going forward, what can you expect from the general direction of the platform, and set a tone for the day a little bit. So, really, we're looking at this, how creative teams of, in general, can use the platform and can build studios, hopefully not rebuilding everything from scratch again. I will not be going over the very basics of the system. If you are interested, please have a look at the last year's talk that I had. It is on YouTube. It's available. It's fairly easy to find. FMX 2024, was it? 2024. Please have a look at it. That goes quite in depth into what are the general building blocks of the system. So I will skip over that a little bit. But our general ethos is still that creative teams of all sizes deserve to have a robust pipeline. This is the absolute core of how we're building AYON. Building a platform that you can use as a small studio, but hopefully should never ever stop you from growing to whatever size you can think of. This is the whole ethos. If you're trusting all of your data into a pipeline platform, you should not feel at some point that, oh crap, I need to actually upgrade something. You might upgrade individual pieces, but we want to make sure that you don't have to upgrade the underlying core technology. So what is it for those who don't know? Is that readable? Let's simplify it a little bit. It's, in simple terms, platform designed to streamline pipeline and production needs of creative industry. Now, last year it was the first time that we announced the production needs of the system. Historically, we were very much a pipeline platform, and we have spent a lot of time over the past 12 months to speak to studios on the production side of things as well, to figure out how do we marry this whole thing together. Pipeline is great, but without oversight of your data, it's kind of useless. A good production tracking solution is amazing, but if you don't load it with good and correct data, it's the most useless database on the planet. So we're looking at it as one thing that needs to work together and needs to work in unison, and that's what we're trying to achieve. Now, we're building AYON to be for everyone, so we have a few personas that we're trying to hit across the system: the artists, supervisors, producers, pipeline TDs, and studio admins. Each of them has completely different needs. Each of them has completely different opinions on what is good in a system. each of them has a completely different opinions on what is a good cost, not a good cost, fast, what is slow. So it's the tricky bit of the whole system, and keeping it open as much as possible is tailoring to all of these people, so we don't make producers happy who hold the money but then piss off 80 artists, or make artists happy but have actually no one install the solution because the admins can't figure it out. So this is the battle that we have set out to fight. We're also trying to make sure that AYON is useful for every stage of the production. We're splitting it out into 5 distinct stages: production planning, creation, which is really the 80% of the work that you're doing most of the time, the review of all of the work, the delivery, and the archival of the project. So AYON should be helping you managing all of these stages, not only one or the other. We're very proud that we, at the moment, have integrations with almost everything on the market. I'm sure there's going to be software packages and DCCs that someone will come after the talk and tell me, hey, do you have this? And I'll go, I never heard of it, so no. But we can integrate it. So currently, we're really hitting most of the DCCs on the market. The versatility is really crucial for the teams looking to streamline their workflows. No one is anymore sticking to a single software and working with it for 10 years. That's thing of the past. All the studios are changing. A client comes and a client tells you, hey, you're going to do my project, but you're going to do it on a completely different DCC because 5 other vendors are using that DCC and you're going to have to learn it on the fly. Hopefully, you shouldn't need to rewrite all of your pipeline systems for that new platform just because a client forced you into it. So we're doing our best to smoothen those bumps as much as possible. Very important. It's a crucial thing that we set out at the very beginning, that AYON will always be possible to self-host behind whatever levels of firewalls you might have, completely offline, not telling us about using it, not telling us that it is there. You should be able to run in a completely bizarrely secure environments. And yeah, most of the TPN studios that we currently have all kinds of setups that you can think of, and it should always be possible. But you can also, especially for those that are kind of sick of managing their own failing servers and backups that they've kept doing for years, but never actually checked whether they can restore the backup. By the way, if you are doing backups of anything, please try whether you can restore them at least once every few months. We've seen a few too many of, yes, we have backups. Yeah, we have theoretical backups. So you can also manage it. You can get AYON as a managed SaaS solution on our input cloud, where we kind of set up the whole thing for you, manage the backups, manage the scalability of it, manage the full deployment. You have both options. Importantly, as a studio, if you do realize that at some point you need to migrate from the cloud solution to on-prem, for whatever reason, it is possible. It is also possible the other way. We're not locking your data into either of those solutions. We're really trying hard to make it possible and viable to switch between the two if it needs to be. Of course, there is some work involved, but it should never stop you. So let's have a look what some of the studios did with AYON over the last year. By the way, if anyone thinks that building software is the hard part, it's not. Convincing studios to send you shots of the things that they've done with the software is the hard part, by far. So yeah, thank you everyone who might have some shots on there. It's really much appreciated. So let me show you the show reel from last year. Thank you. Good. So thanks to all the studios that sent us something. Now let's have a look at what we've done in the past year. So we've released AYON 1.0. Yes, we're one of the weird ones, brave ones that call it 1.0 when it's technically still in production, but we didn't want to stay at 0.78 for 4 years. So there you go. We have managed to keep the versioning of the system, especially for anyone who really builds on top of it. We are keeping the versioning very strictly to break in APIs and matching the versions to that. So it's 1.0 because from that moment we kept extremely careful not to break APIs backwards compatibility. So when 2.0 happens, God knows, but if we keep the backwards compatibility for years to come, it's going to be 1 point something for years to come. So we've done quite a few releases over time, but let's have a look at some stats. So last year I was showing numbers, and I'll show you a few of them. This is exactly a slide from last year. In April 2023, we knew of around 50 studios that were using AYON, or at the time OpenPipe platform. As far as we could tell, it was around 50 studios. A year later, when we were releasing AYON 1.0, we could trace, by trace I mean we were aware of roughly 300 studios that were using AYON to some capacity. A lot of them in testing capacity, but 300 studios gave it a good shot. As of a few days ago, we have hit over 1,000 studios that have deployed AYON, tried it, installed it, and actually did some serious work with it, at least to the capacity of trying it on a project or trying some very first things. We're trying to filter out those that installed it for 2 minutes and kind of dropped it out. So those numbers are looking very interesting. What is more important for us is that in the last very intense 12 months, we are actually counting 547 active AYONs out in the wild. That means AYONs that in the last 90 days have updated the version, updated add-ons, have done some... they're actually live because, as you can imagine, out of the 1,000 instances, there is a lot that are kind of just hanging there. So the adoption of the platform of the past year was massive. And for us, that has been quite the commitment, maybe substantially larger than we anticipated originally. So that was going very well. We have grown the community on Discord to over 2,000 members. Out of those, a lot are active. Those that are active, if they're here, thank you very much. Maybe Roy could tone it down a little bit sometimes. There is too much noise from some people. And as far as we can tell, and we can't tell about a lot of studios which are behind firewalls, of course, which are self-deployed, and they don't share this data because this is mostly opt-in data. We can trace around 8,500 individual user accounts across the board. Now, we are quite certain the number is substantially higher because we speak to studios that do not contribute this data, statistical data, because they are simply completely blacked out behind firewalls. So it's been quite a heavy year, and to illustrate that, we will first focus on the server, the backbone of the whole system, which for us has been the key focus, because all the other parts of the system, it's a modular thing where you have the server, there's a pipeline layer, production tracking layer, there are all the add-ons. Everything else is technically replaceable. You might have an opinion that you don't like our production tracker, you might not like our Maya integration. You can replace them, rewrite them, do whatever you want with them. The server is the absolute core, so there was a massive focus on that. So what have we done? The first thing, we're really keeping an eye on keeping it scalable and sustainable platform for the studios. Now, the industry is going through a massive transformation and turmoil in the past 6 to 12 months. Studios are closing down, they're splitting, new ones are opening, better tools are kind of allowing even the small studios to do incredible amount of work, really akin to much, much larger studios. So the scalability is extremely important for us because we have studios that for years we knew were 10, 15 people, and suddenly they get a project and they need to hire 100 people across the globe. And they do the project, and a month later there are 20 people again, and they just keep jumping up and down. And the old pipelines they had worked perfectly well for their scale at that point, but they don't work that well for the larger scale. But it goes the opposite way as well. Large studios that, because of issues, need to scale down and still stay operational, and suddenly the overhead of maintaining a huge, very good functional pipeline for just a few people becomes too much. So this stretching of the pipeline vertically and horizontally was quite important focus. So what we've done for that? So AYON is now ready for complete Kubernetes deployment. In fact, our cloud-hosted service is exactly that, is a heavy horizontally and vertically scalable Kubernetes cluster that we can do in multiple regions when someone gets in ours. But importantly, everything we do on our cloud platform is doable for studios on-prem as well. So AYON is absolutely runnable in very complex Kubernetes environments in studios that simply need to have that kind of setup. Secondly, we now made sure that across the board, AYON is fully horizontally scalable. Even if you're not running it in Kubernetes, you can actually run AYON replicas. That is for the database, that is for the server itself. The more replicas you run, you can have them very well horizontally scaled if you simply need to beef up your production for a certain amount of time. It is possible. It's possible to do it without any major disruption. If you have a solid DevOps team, they will figure it out themselves. The important thing is AYON as a product supports it, but we do also provide a help to studios to set it up. We have kind of enterprise level deployment setups that we can come to the studio and help you get it up and running. CDN media delivery across the board, all the attachments in the system, all the reviewables, anything that is resembling media inside of AYON can be served from a super simple setup, just directly in your Docker container, the data can live, but you can serve it through a CDN, which is either hosted by us on our cloud service, but if you have a CDN in a company, you can run and connect that CDN directly to the system. So once again, if you're a large studio, it is fully possible to run AYON in our cloud, but actually have your media hosted in your S3 storage and served with your CDN, and we can stream it into the system. So the security of this data can be done in many, many ways now, and especially with these strange hybrid setups that we see sometimes, this is extremely important. S3 storage support. So we store all of the heavy data on S3 ourselves, but you can, once again, connect your own S3 storage that your studio already has, and that can act as a storage for the main server. So that is quite interesting for larger ones. The add-on system has been finalized to a very good level over the past year. As we released more add-ons and worked with studios, we realized where were the shortcomings. Most of those were fixed. So right now, if you're extending the system and you're building your own studio add-on, whatever it needs, whether it's a pipeline add-on, whether it's something that you are using for your business intelligence or some dashboards, all of that can extend AYON in pretty much any way. You can extend the UI completely in any way that you want. You can extend the API itself on the REST platform. You can extend the desktop part and the cloud part and the server part. It should really not stop you. But importantly, you shouldn't need to fork the whole project and try to maintain all of this kind of big infrastructural bit internally. You can really just run your own add-on and fix those things or those augmentations in the add-on. And the last but not least, we are focusing on a lot on developer features. So we have added a lot of features like web actions, where it allow you to, in various places of the interface, run an action that can actually do something either server-side or desktop side, and it can present the UI to artists. You can kind of ask them questions, give them options, and augment it very heavily. We have decoupled maintenance system of the server. So if you're running a server internally and you're updating it to the new version, and there are any maintenance procedures in the background, you need to upgrade database, you need to do something, they can happen on the side without disrupting the actual user interface of the users. So if you're running for productions and you're scared updating your systems, and have you seen studios running on 4-year-old pipelines or APIs? No one? Yeah, few? So we're trying to make it easier to make this possible without heavy disruptions of productions. So hopefully it's going to help you. Now, sustainability, we had a lot of conversations over the past year with studios about how can they be sure that we will be here in a couple of years. There's always the question, when we started as a purely open source project, and right now we have open source section, which is like still 90% of the code probably. There are some commercial add-ons, it's a mix of things. You need to trust that if things go south, and they might, you never know, that you can still rely on the platform. So all of what we said would be for nothing if you couldn't rely on it for the years to come. Striking the balance between the openness of the product and funding of that product growth is key, and open source projects have been struggling with this for years. Now, we've been lucky enough that we had many studios that were supporting OpenPipe and AYON over the years, the development, the backlog, and all of this. But as it's growing, as the user base is growing, it wasn't quite hitting all the points that we needed. And we stayed true to this kind of open movement for 5 years. But at the beginning of this year, especially for the server, after many conversations we had last year with products, companies that started building other things on top of AYON, and they were really interesting, but they kind of were building them in the secret. We had to protect a little bit. So at the beginning of this year, we have changed the license of the server part only. And we changed it from Apache 2, which allows you to do whatever you want in any way, shape imaginable. We changed to what is called functional source license. If you go to our website, there is a good blog post that explains all of the details about it. We essentially joined a group of companies that are trying to build open systems that are actually sustainable and when business can run on top of them and we can provide commercial support continuously. What functional source license means, as a studio, as an end user, you can do whatever you want. You can take the system, you can use it for free, you can change it, change the code, deploy it however you want. You can provide it to your partner studios, to your clients if you need to. The only thing that you cannot do is you cannot resell AYON as a competing service on the cloud. That's the extent of the protection that we have put into the system to make sure we keep having the funding for running this thing. However, if things go south, if something happens to input as a company, if you don't like where we are heading as a company, where the product is heading, FSL, the functional source license, ensures that every release of AYON, 2 years after it was released, turns automatically into fully open source Apache 2 license again. So worst case scenario, even if you're really, really unhappy with anything, 2 years after every single release, it still becomes open source in the full sense. So we're hoping that strikes a good balance between commercial interests of us and actually building a platform that's going to be strong enough and studios that can be safe, that it's not going to be just suddenly closed off and we pull the plug and they realize, okay, we've invested a lot of money into a system that we can't use now. So we're hoping this is going to, so far, the feedback has been overly positive, but if anyone wants to ask more questions or discuss it afterwards, I'll be here and I'll be more than happy. Now, we can't call it a platform if we don't work on the developer features and on letting studios actually build on top of it. We are building AYON as really the core for you, and we're expecting that studios will expand on it. We do provide a lot of stuff out of the box, but the reality is you will have opinions, that do not match our opinions, so you should be able to change them. So the focus last year was on server. As you can see, we've done 45 releases of AYON server in the last 12 months. That's a lot per month. I don't know. Someone calculated. It's like over three releases per month. We are really making sure that when bugs are found, we are fixing them as quickly as possible. And we have focused on the developer resources that are now expanded to the point that a year ago, everyone was asking, how do I build this? How do I build that? And now a lot of those requests have reduced significantly, and the community is actually starting to help themselves. So if you want to use the system, it doesn't mean you always have to go through us. You can actually ask community, and they will most likely help you. So what is there? We have moved all of the developer documentation to docs.ayondev. It's a portal that we are still improving right now, but you will find guides, how to create add-ons, how to create integrations, all of these things that you shouldn't get stopped. We have, a few weeks ago, finalized an auto-generation of API documentation for all of the add-ons. So any repository in our organization, if you go to docs.ayondev/name of the add-on, you will find auto-generated with every single release documentation for API of those particular add-ons. So if anyone comes to us and says, hey guys, can we have more developer documentation? We'll probably say, no, have you read the one that's already there? So we're hoping it's going to help a lot for every studio to really trust the underlying core. But on top of that, we're also providing a full React component library to everything that you see in AYON frontend on the web interface. All of those buttons, all of those cards, everything that is there is available to everyone open source that you can use. So if you are a studio that needs to build a different nice website for your artists or for your producers, a different opinion on how you want to view the data in your production, you can start assembling it like a Lego from our components that we're providing. They're all pre-built, they're all very usable, and we're using them across the board in all of the AYON interface. So you should be quite fast. You just need a semi-competent React developer in the studio. They don't need to come up with the UX itself. We've also improved the setting experience quite a bit. I think I need to press the button to play this. For those that have used AYON settings before, there are hundreds of settings. Now this year we finally introduced full text search across the whole thing. So you can choose add-ons from the whole system, and if you want to find everything that is to do with color, you type it in, you will filter out those settings into just the color. This will follow with more features on the settings by categorizations and tagging, so hopefully we'll get to the point that you can say, give me everything that's related to Maya, and even though that setting might live somewhere else in some other add-on that affects Maya, you should be able to get to all of those very quickly. So that should make your life substantially easier. The last but not least from the server, we have substantially improved services platform that we have in. So if you're running any background processes in a studio, you can now manage them from the front end in a lot better fashion. You can, before you could start them and restart them, but now you can edit those services. You can pass extra arguments to them. You can connect them to your storages. I would be very surprised if you're heavily stopped by something that is not supported. You should be able to augment AYON to very crazy lengths. Now, let's talk a little bit about pipeline. Last year, someone had a very good question. In the Q&A at the end of the presentation, they were asking, guys, are you now going to focus all on production tracking, neglecting the pipeline because the production tracking is the more sexy part of the system for you? Not really, not a chance, simply because without the pipeline, it's just another database, and we've seen enough of those. It's not quite true. It's a better database, but it would still be just another database. So to prove that, I cannot go through features we've done on the pipeline last year. You will find pipeline presentations around FMX that pick out the 2-3 features. I would really struggle because I wanted to like pull out the changelogs, what was there, but if you can read this, you have better eyesight than I do. Over 2,300 merged pull requests in the last 12 months. For those who don't know what it means, every pull request is a bug fix or a new feature or an enhancement. I simply wasn't able to pull out something that would be interesting enough for everyone. So we have focused on it really heavily. At the moment, we have 27 DCC integrations, 18 other integrations, Slack, other production tracking, and other things. So the scope is just too big to actually pull out individual bits. And we've done a lot of work on completely refreshing a few key integrations. So if you're using Flame, thanks to a few studios, it's been completely revamped and is now actually very stable integration that you should enjoy quite a lot. We have massively improved ShotGrid integration. So for those, ShotGrid, Flow, you know what I mean. So if you're using AYON with Flow, now you have a proper two-way sync. They work together really nicely. Houdini has been completely revamped as well. Now you can do all of the Houdini work directly with nodes. It doesn't feel like Maya interface. It doesn't feel like Blender integration. It is nicely Houdini based. And if you do like a little bit of bad stand-up comedy, come to the talk in 2 hours, I think, when Jan and Roy will be talking about ingesting a lab set into AYON in a very automated, lovely Houdini setup. Come in. It's half USD and half semi-bad stand-up comedy. It's somewhere in between. They try. Apologies, guys. Give it a shot. But we also, over the past year, made a lot of new DCC integrations that beforehand we considered slightly on the edge of usability, but it turns out a lot of studios came in over the past 12 months and fully funded these integrations. So we were able to add Cinema 4D, which was actually, that's the one that wasn't funded by studio. If anyone's interested, go to our GitHub and find the pull request for Cinema 4D. I think Roy tried to map the genesis of that integration, and it goes far. It goes far. There's so many contributors that kind of put it in there. So thank you very much for community. But Substance Painter, Speedtree, Mocha Pro, Silhouette, Premiere Pro, Jira 3D Equalizer, and Motion Builder have all been specifically ordered by studios that came in, helped us design them, and funded all of that development. So all of that what we were able to do in the past 12 months. USD workflow, I mentioned Houdini already. I mentioned the Flame refresh, which was quite major. Houdini workflow got huge improvements over the past 12 months. We have worked quite intensely with side effects on this as well, with a bunch of clients on this. And in the presentation about the A-Lab, you will see kind of where we got with that. It is now fully usable setup, but importantly, especially if you're slightly larger studio, we also provide a native USD asset resolver that calls to ION database directly, that is fairly well optimized. Excuse me. So if you do want to use more complex setup and not just rely on your folder structures, you can actually use Resolver out of the box. Now, it's been, I would call it currently in beta. It does a really good job. It does resolve everything that you need. It has spinning. It has all of the production features that you would request. It does need a little bit more production breaking and production testing. So please, if you're interested in USD resolvers, give it a shot. Give us feedback. We will keep iterating on it until we can be completely certain that it can handle huge scales of work. As far as our testing can tell, it can, but our testing can go only so far. So we need more studios to actually test it out. And all of the production trackings that we currently support have a two-way sync between ION and the other production tracker with quite a few stability improvements. So your life should be substantially easier. Now, I just pulled out a few integrations and how many releases we've done over the 12 months. And this was just kind of the top of the list. That you can see it's not just server receiving a lot of updates. Everything that we do receives a lot of updates continuously. There's three bigger areas that we were focusing on, and some of them you will see today. Jakub will be making presentation in the afternoon about the advanced render ops. Half of the presentation is about our delivery tools that we were working with a few studios on over the past year. It's a really nice, fairly complex setup that you can get in there, and it's a very robust thing where you can do big deliveries of data with automated slate generation and recalculation of your frames and generating the full packages, and it really lets you go quite far. So Jakub will be showing more details. There is 4 or 6 maybe ways of how you can ingest data into your pipeline with ION out of the box. Now, we're well aware that every studio gets their data from their set, from their clients, from put whatever you want in there, in all kinds of ways that we would prefer to be nicer and more consistent, and that's just not the world that we live in. So we provide quite a few ways how you can ingest this data. You can ingest it directly through editorial software. You can use our standalone tools to build heavy automations on data ingest. If the data is consistent enough over time, it's very easy to build these things that they just ingest it for you. But if you just get a dump of things from your client and then you need to understand it completely manually, we do have tools for that as well. There is an ingest UI that you dump a big folder of whatever unstructured things, and that's the worst case scenario where you manually tell it, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this. The point is it will not stop you from doing this. There's a CSV ingest, which is quite common. You get data from your client. Here is a bunch of footage, and here is a CSV that tells you 73% of information that you need. You can take this, structure it a little bit, and ingest it all in bulk into ION as well, creating your shots, creating your tasks, creating custom metadata for those shots. I would be quite surprised if you're stopped, even though I'm certain that there are ingestion packages that you will get that we have never seen. But worst case scenario, ION will not stop you from augmenting it a little bit to do it. Now we have finished archival tool for ION. We are maybe a couple of weeks away from finalizing the UI for it as well. It's a full archiving setup where you define based on the configs that you can save and reuse what kind of data is interesting for you to archive at the end of the project. Meaning you can tell it for compositing tasks, we want to keep the last render version and last 3 work files and any unknown files because God knows what those artists have pulled into their scenes. For animation, you might be more structured and you say we only care about the last work file, but we don't want any of the Alembics caches stored because we can regenerate them. So you can create contextual rules. You run the setup and ION spits out a report for you telling you what will be deleted from the project before the archival to kind of shrink the size. Or you can, of course, reverse the logic, what will be kept. And then if you're happy with it, you trigger it, and ION actually does the work of pruning the project for you, so it's a more reasonable archival size when you do it. So that was quite a heavy effort that hopefully will save you some cost, at least those cloud-based studios that every megabyte is precious. Now, let's focus on producers a little bit. They are important too. Well, very important. They are the ones who decide what you can and cannot use very often in production. And supervisors, yes, you're important too. It's essentially, this is all for you. Now, we are very heavily invested into production tools at this moment. It's a separate team within AYON that is working on this. We want to build tools that you want to use. So when we speak to a lot of producers, coordinators, supervisors, and the recurring sentence we hear is, I have to use this tool because there is nothing better. I have to use this tool because I don't have time to learn a new one. Now, that's a noble goal, but we want to flip this a little bit, and we want to hear them say, I want to use AYON Planner because it actually helps me every day. I want to use AYON filters because they're really intuitive. I want to use AYON Review because I didn't have to learn it. It just worked straight away. So we are limiting the scope of what we are building in the production tracking after many, many, many conversations with studios to the tools that they actually need and want. And when we are done with all of those, then we can discuss about those 1% of the time, 1% of the users needs to use this particular thing. So what have we done? Web player with annotations. That's what happens when you don't replace your template in there. So that's beautiful. So web player and annotations, I'll show you a little bit of that in a second. It plays practically instantly anything that you upload into AYON because it's very heavy, very good CDN throughput behind it. You press a button, the review opens instantly. You can view it. You can do your annotations. It's a nice pressure-sensitive system. It's been there for a while now. We have added a task progress page very specifically for supervisors and coordinators that need to see all of the tasks at the same time. They don't need the details, they need to see the state of the work. So I'll show you in a second what it looks like. Notifications that we are hoping are actually useful. So in a second we'll have a look at that one. Smart filters, I'll go through those in a second as well. Production planner and production scheduler. And project overview tool, which was released a couple of weeks ago. So let's have a look at some of those. So what do we mean by notifications that are actually useful? So which one of you have used actually on a daily basis notifications in ShotGrid, FTrack, Kitsu, some other systems, GitHub? How many of you are able to find the relevant information within 5 seconds of opening that inbox? It's not a whole lot of hands. So we've approached the whole system a little bit differently. AYON works on a system that it categorizes all of the notifications in a system into important and others, and important are extremely selective. Which means when you go to your inbox, important will only show you things that are directly relevant with your name. So if you were tagged in a comment, if a status has been changed on your tasks, sounds super important, it's your task. You see it probably as well. So that goes into others. You probably know about it already. Then we do a fairly detailed kind of categorizations of these, and we're improving it over time as we're getting feedback from people. So when you go to your notifications, the important tab should show you 10 things and not 3,500. There is the 3,500, but they are shifted to others. So if you're really geeky and you need to know about all the status changes in the production over the past 24 hours, be my guest. You can go there, you can do it. Most likely you don't. So notifications was a big thing. Now web player with annotations, this was the first step towards our review system that I will go into in a second. We have built the annotation system. It is not based on vectors as some of the others. We are actually basing it on rasters, which means you can sample the color from your image. You can then draw with that color. You can erase it. You can actually do a little bit of creative work in that player. Store it as a comment as you would into any other commenting system. Now, AYON allows you to have multiple reviewables per version. So on what you see here on the right side, and I don't have many here, but it's quite common that you have a model and you publish a turnaround, but it's a massive robot and you actually need to have multiple close-up shots of individual images, there are extra renders, the artist needs to pass a little bit more information to the supervisor. So AYON allows you to do that within the same version. You don't have to create 5 different versions just because I have different views of some piece of data. If you're doing a review of an environment, you're hardly going to contain it into a single fly-through render. I mean, we have all done all kinds of bending of cameras and jumping cameras just to manage to get all of that in one. So we've built it in a way that you can attach many reviewables to a simple version that represent the state of work at that moment from different angles, different ways. If it's a render, for example, you could use it for storing other AOVs in those different reviewables if you want to. So it's totally up to you how you use that system. But it makes your life hopefully significantly easier. Task progress page. It's lovely to have a table that gives you all of the information and the shoe size of this particular shot, but you don't need to know that on a daily basis. So the task progress page gives you an overview of every single shot or asset and all of its tasks and all of their assets and all of their statuses and who does them and what state they are in based on the latest render that came through. So I can show you a little bit of what that looks like. So it's a fully hierarchical selection, so whatever you choose in the slicer on the left, that's going to pull out all of those shots. We quickly calculate percentages of what is done in a per task type or per shot type. You can click on any of those individual tasks and open them up in review straight away. So if you just press space, like for example in Mac Finder, it brings up that review. You can bulk change assignees. You can bulk change the statuses. Pretty much everything in AYON, we try very hard to make it work on multiple selections. So hopefully you never need to go and click 1, 2, 3, 4, but you can do it all in once. So this is something that is mostly targeted at, I would say, production coordinators, people who need to have a very quick overview of the production at once. It's also very fast. If you're brave enough and you pull in a full, like all of the episodes of your episodic project, that is thousands of shots potentially, it takes a couple of seconds to pre-populate this whole thing, put it in. It slightly depends on the power of your server, of course, but the database and API itself is built to be very fast and very pleasant to use. The production planner. So this was the first stage of our planning features. This is the studio level planning tool where, of course, you can prepare your phases of the project in a general sense. Here is animation. Here is going to be layout. Here is going to be rendering. You can assign different people to it. You can assign different task types. That is the general plan, usually before you actually know what shots you are going to be doing. You can't yet schedule individual things. So this is for you to be able to make bigger plans in the system. Now, within a couple of weeks, we're also launching a scheduling part of this, which allows you to then transfer this bigger plan into an individual schedule of all the tasks and who does what and exactly what time slots. We're adding subtasks capability to that. So if you have a task, if you have a compositing task, for example, and that comp task needs to be split between a junior for a week that works on it, but then you know that for every shot you need a senior comper to spend half a day on it at the end of the process just to check it. You'll be able to schedule this in a very detailed manner, saying, okay, it's going to be subtask for 3 days by a junior, and then a supervisor will spend half a day on each of those shots in some other time period down the line of the timeline. So this is all built in now. We have added a few goodies into it. Let me see if I have it open here. So if you are in the planner, now the reality of life is you will plan it wrong at some point, and you will be unsure whether what is there is actually should be visible by the studio or not. So we have a system of scenarios, where here I have a scenario number 1. I have some things planned. I think this is how we're gonna be doing these things. Let me just zoom into that. So okay, FX will be done. Yeah, just here within the week, but you're not quite sure. So you can come in as a producer, duplicate the scenario, and actually I've duplicated it before here, scenario 3. You duplicate it, you can start changing it. You think it actually might not be that great, we'll have less time. You're making one of them live. The one that is live is actually published into the rest of the studio. That's what the artists should work with, that's what they know, that's what we push into the real deadlines. So you can start building these scenarios, and you can be a little bit unsure, and only when you think that's okay, so this scenario now makes sense, you go in, you make it live. At that moment, it's pushed into the rest of the studio, and you don't have to be scared that as your producer and playing with those deadlines, that your studio is getting confused. Why the hell is my shot jumping yesterday to today to next week? You should be able to have pretty good control over it. These scenarios can be completely different, by the way. So I can have a scenario where I actually add another spot or another episode. I duplicate this whole thing. Because client might have come and said, actually, you'll do more of these spots, so you can start pre-planning it. But the studio the rest of the studio doesn't need to know that this is there. You can split those responsibilities quite heavily. This is on the planner side, but of course this will work on the scheduling side as well. So the individual tasks down to the artist level, you can split these responsibilities of knowledge. You can, of course, do things like you can group it by individuals, so you can see how each individual person, how they're booked out. You can group it by task types, so I can see my departments, lighting and similar, and how many tasks they have stacked, where those are. You can color it by various different criteria. And as we get more feedback, this is a fairly fresh feature. It's been out for about a month, I think, or 2 months. We'll be improving over time. All of the data is calendar compatible, so we will most certainly be adding features like exporting all of this into an iCal, for example, or an ICS that you can share with the client, potentially in a different way than letting them into your whole system. It's ultimately just a time-based information that you could put into Google Calendar, for example, and let them share. The data is structured in a way that this will be possible. So where are we next? Do you think this will work or it will never work again? As when you use new tech for presentation that you haven't used before, it's exactly what happens. Yeah. Anyone knows any joke? Oh, that would be helpful. Roy, you're a supposedly comedian. Go for it. There you go. We're back. So project overview page. This was a big effort on the production side that we have, where we essentially making sure that you can work with the data in a way that you are very well aware of. So if you're a producer, this whole thing works as an Excel sheet. You can change everything at once. You can select multiple fields. You can copy and paste fields. If you change the status, you copy it, paste it into 20 others. It's going to work. You can do things like you select a whole part of that page, Control-C, go to an Excel sheet, Control-V, all the data is pasted. You can change the data in the Excel sheet, Control-C, and come back here and paste it back, and all of the data is going to be rebuilt. So you can export it, you can import it, of course, but it's just about making it faster for you and making the whole interaction faster and all of the information. Of course, you can hide those panels and work with them. But what we wanted to achieve, that if you have producers or coordinators that are complaining that they keep coming back to Excel sheet, let them. They can change it. They can come back here, and you can keep your nice clean data on a pipeline side, and they can keep their Google Sheets. So you can see just a little bit of you copy, you paste into multiple fields. Of course, you can do that with shortcuts. The filtering, I spend a lot of time on. It's a smart filtering system that as soon as you start, you can choose what field you want to filter by. But more often you have in your mind the actual words that you want to filter by. So instead of going and saying in this view, filter out by status, approved, you just go in and start typing approved, APP, and the system evaluates what field you probably mean, and it automatically puts it into the status. Now, if that word that you're typing matches multiple filters, it will give you all of those options. But most of the time, if you're starting to type and you're typing high, you probably mean priority and not a state of the artist's mind. So it will filter by priority, even though you can have custom attributes and you can be fairly creative with it. We've added a lot of other small improvements across the board. So the custom statuses, you can now give them colors, you can give them icons, you can make them kind of selected lists, so they can actually look pretty in the system, not just hold information, but they can actually make it visually pleasant. Things like when you do publish a version and the artist has a comment, that comment is attached directly to the version. It is not just listed as a note somewhere that you need to look for. Actions that you can trigger directly from the system. Copying of settings. If you're running your staging AYON and your production AYON, you can now, when you flip some new system to production, we will automatically copy those settings for you, so you don't have to go and check one by one. A lot of quality of life improvements. The watchers system, your supervisor or lead, and you're interested in a shot or in a task that someone else is doing that you might need to oversee a little bit, but it's not your task. So you have assignees, but we also have watchers, so you can subscribe to certain things. And then more importantly, unsubscribe from those things if they're annoying, because we automatically make you a watcher. If the system evaluates that you should be, you've been assigned to the task for a little bit, but then you're unassigned from the task, you will stay a watcher because you're probably interested. Actually, you might not be, so you can go and unwatch the different things. So lots of work ahead of us. Hopefully everyone else too. That would be nice if there was lots of work for a while, even after the past year. So what is waiting? So we have launched feedback roadmap and a new help portal. So everyone, please, if you need anything with AYON, go there. It's help.ionapp, feedback.ionapp. They will all redirect you between one and the other. Very importantly, we have built all of this system directly into AYON. So if you deploy AYON for your artists, and they're not quite sure about any part of the system, there is a contextual help built directly into the system. So if they're in the settings page and they're figuring out how do I set color space for Nuke, instead of going to a different place, finding it in documentation, they just open the help center directly inside. They start typing their question. And if you thought I will not mention AI here, you are wrong. It's not built by us, but we do have an AI layer on top of the documentation, so they can ask a human question and the AI will give them a 70% correct AI answer. So tread carefully, but it will also give you a link to the actual piece of documentation. And we're hoping that those that are managing the system inside of the studio might get less requests from their day-to-day users about how they do stuff. And of course, maybe we will get a little bit less of support requests on how do I create a user. Go to users and click add new user, but the AI can tell you now. So the roadmap is now fully public. I'm not going through every detail. Please go to the roadmap page of AYON. You can vote for individual features. You can comment on those. You can affect those ideas. We do listen to everyone in there, but obviously the way that we kind of build roadmap of AYON is we segment all of the people who vote into those that are customers, that have some subscriptions to AYON, those that are community users, and based on that we have a system that essentially values these feedbacks, and we try to, of course, first focus on those that are coming from paid customers and then from the community. Doesn't mean we disregard them. If 80% of community is saying a feature is needed, there's a good chance it's needed, so we will build it in. So, review sessions. We are hoping this will be available in Q2, which is now, but towards the end of Q2, so be nice to us. The full review system that we are building will allow you, so apart from, of course, timeline-based reviews, clips that are timeline-based or not timeline-based, switching between those two modes. Soft cutting of the timeline. So if you ever use systems, if you do animation or VFX and you do handles on your shots, and you've been secretly crying into the pillow that you cannot see them online without those handles, and you can't see the shot hookups. So in AYON, because we know about those handles from the metadata, you can actually soft cut them away in the review sessions and bring them back. So you can see your nice hookups of your shots, and you can still keep the handles without generating 3 reviewable versions just because of that. These sessions are fully storable and savable. You can create them as a temporary things. You can name them. You can generate many of them, organize them in the system, share them with your supervisors. You will be able to share them with your clients. You will be able to share them with external users. That will come probably in the summer, but in the first version, in about a month time, you will be able to manage these playlists across the board. You will be also able to run actions against these playlists, which means if you need to open the review session in RV on a high-res EXR data, you will be able to do it. If you prefer, what is it called, Mr. Player or MR Player, you be my guest. You can open that whole metadata session and open it in that. If you want to open it in Hero or Resolve, we can build an action, or you can build an action that takes this whole session metadata, including those handles, whether they're cut in or cut out, and you can rebuild that timeline in something else. We are planning to add an automated OTIO export out of here that is not built yet. We need to iron out a few kinks. But the idea would be that if you run an action against the session, you would actually get an OTIO object that you can process somehow in your preferred way. You might be pushing these into Flame for what I know. So we're not imposing too many opinions. We'll give you the tools to actually do it. Lists of essentially anything in the system. This is also aimed at this quarter. Whether you need lists of shots or versions or products or anything across the board, you will be able to create them, manage them, run actions against them. The lists that we are making are a little bit more than just the lists. So if you imagine that you have a set of shots, one thing is that I have a set of particular shots that will be delivered to a client on a particular date. But AYON lists allow you to add extra attributes to these lists, and allow you to override existing attributes. So you can build systems where I have a set of tasks that I put into a separate list, and in this separate list I will add extra completely custom attributes that only apply to that list, so you can keep a client metadata, delivery metadata, your internal extra data. But you can also say in this particular list the status of a shot is different than in the rest of the system. So it allows you to do things. Have you ever worked on a project where you had two directors that had to impose opinion on the same shot? Yeah? So you can technically build a list for one director, another director. They can have their own sets of statuses. And then you can build a system that somehow, good luck, evaluates which one is more valuable and pushes it into the particular shot at the end. So it's up to you how you use them. They are the underlying technology behind the playlists as well. So essentially, playlists that we have in review sessions also can hold extra metadata. So we will probably allow you to do things like, while you're in the session, maybe the status that you set there, you don't want to be the final status, but some in-between status. So on the back end, this is all built in there. We're now finishing the UX bit, so you actually want to use it and not just have to. Subtasks, I was already mentioning. This is what it's going to look like, where you have a task, you break it into multiple bits. Those bits can have separate assignees. They have separate time ranges. They have separate names. You can track them, and they're tied workflow and pipeline-wise. They are tied to the main task. So if you have an animation scene in a 2D that you need to pass from artist to an artist, but you actually want to use the same work file and the same context, you'll be able to do this with the subtasks without trying to rebuild your whole pipeline logic with an extra step in there. Fully possible. We're rebuilding the full browser design. If you've used AYON, you know that is one of the oldest DUIs that we have in there, so it has its shortcomings. We're rebuilding within the next few weeks to use the new filtering system that I was talking about, the full slicer on the left side. I haven't shown it, but essentially, if you, well, maybe it's going to break the presentation, but on the left side where you can see the hierarchy, if you're on a subscription of AYON, that slicer can be changed into many different things, and we will be adding more. So you might have a complex filter setup. I'm only interested in tasks which are in progress, for example. Now, on the left side, right now, I'm slicing it based on hierarchy, but I can change the slicer to assignees. And without changing your main filter, so I'm now looking at animation tasks which are in progress, I can click on the left side through individuals in the studio and see their particular point of view of that data. So we have multiple ways of filtering this. Some of them are to be changed at a moment's notice, when I just say I care about this person or this person. Some of them are meant to be persistent and shared when you kind of set the filter on the whole page. Now the project structure templates, that's a big project ahead of us, hopefully available sometime in the summer, where you will be able to take any part of the project and store it as a template and then reuse it anywhere else. Now, we're not calling it task templates because it's a fairly more robust system. Whether you're saying this is a FX shot that has this set of tasks, and this is a character shot that has this set of tasks, and a hero asset and non-hero asset, whatever you might need, you can do that, but you can also store it with extra hierarchies. So you'll be able to say, we as a studio always start with these folders and these types of things and these full structures of projects, and then reapply them to other structures of the projects or to the full project. So it's a very modular system that we will leave up to you how you use it. And again, you will be able to trigger it directly from the UI or with an API. And the last but not least, reporting, graphs, and metrics. Project ahead of us, we are now in a design stage. We're hoping again in a Q3 this will be fully available. Don't hold me to it. We are known to be late on things sometimes. But we are building a system where we don't try to impose what statistics you are interested in. You know that the best, so we're building a dashboarding and reporting system where you pull the data from the system, you choose what you want, you choose how you want to show it, and who should see those particular metrics. So we feel all of the data is now at a good level that we can actually start working on this, and it should be a fairly fast process before We make it available to all our commercial users on beta and alpha. So that is exactly 60 minutes. Who would have guessed? Unfortunately, that doesn't give us a whole lot of time for Q&As, but because Murphy is starting in 15 minutes, I think he'll give me 5, right? So if anyone has any questions, please shoot. By the way, we're going to be here all day till Friday, so if we don't do it here, catch me after. I think that hand was up first. Go.
Great talk and amazing set of updates you managed to put into the product in just a year. So I was thinking, is it even in line with what you do to help studios with setting up a cloud-based infrastructure in terms of like cloud workstations deployment, render farm deployment, license servers, stuff like that? Is it something that you even consider looking into?
It's a continuous conversation from many angles that we get. At the moment, we're working with multiple partners that we are in talks with that provide similar solutions already. What we want to make sure, we want to be AYON as your center hub where you go for your information and where you trigger things. Now, because we do have the services platform in there and we do have the actions that can be very heavy, what they can do, I think in the short and mid-term, it's going to be more about allowing other partners to integrate well. So if you choose to use A, B, or C in your geographical location for managing cloud stations, we want to make it easier from AYON. Right now, in the short term, we're not building anything like that. But we do have already a few that have integrated it into their particular things. Frankly, we have spoken to maybe 6 different parties over the past 12 months that are doing exactly that. We would like to do what we are good at. And setting up your full cloud infrastructure is not the forte of the team right now. So we would much rather partner with companies that are good at that and provide solutions that can kind of work nicely together. We're quite committed to making AYON the hub that talks to everything else, even our competitors. We're keeping all of those integrations in there. So yeah, in the short term, it's probably not going to happen directly from us. But in the midterm, it might happen with AYON in partnership with multiple parties.
Yeah, thank you for all the updates. Sounds really exciting. At the risk of sounding greedy, how much of this will be part of the open source package and how much will be subscription only? So practically almost all of the pipeline related bits, this is how we're doing it structurally. So to be very open how the whole setup is going. Things that we consider completely crucial for managing the system are part of the open part. So the overview page with the filters, for example, is part of the open source package. The task progress page is part of the open source. The reviewables with the annotations are part of the open source. Things where we can find a similar commercial solutions on the market, those are usually done as commercial add-ons. So to give you an idea, the whole planner and what is going to turn into scheduling and a bidding section of the product, that is a paid add-on. Mostly because we have studios that tell us, for a very good reason, they're using something else already for that particular part of the workflow. So we don't want to force them into changing that one part and switching to AYON everything. It's totally fine to use AYON and only choose, I want your review and want your time tracker, but I don't want your planner. So this is kind of how we're looking at it. If we see that there's a commercial solution similar to what we have as an add-on, it's going to be a commercial add-on. If we can't, and if it's really structural, it's going to be part of the open source. So out of these, it's maybe 50-50 between the features that I showed, which are part of open source and part of the commercial offering. Thanks. The pipeline bits are staying open source as much as we humanly can, simply because you will need to tweak them, you will need to break them, you'll need to bend them, and it's a little bit too, I can't well imagine having you pay for a code that I know that likely at some point you might need to change because your pipeline will simply require something really heavy. So the pipeline bits mostly. Automations, a lot of the very heavy duty automations, those are part of the commercial package. But again, there's something you can actually build yourself if you want to. We're quite careful about APIs being open. So we're trying to build convenience that you pay for, not functionalities that are like blocked from the other system. Thanks.
Yeah, go. Here in front of you.
Yeah, I have one question. You did say you have the S3 cloud storage. Do you also have, is it planned or is there also other options which are decoupled from S3?
So on a technical level, AYON can either, it's a difficult question. If you're self-hosting, you can provide the storage in almost any way that you want. So you can have your own S3 that you provide, but it can be a direct mount that you provide to AYON as a storage. So there's multiple options there. If you're hosting with us, I think at the moment it has to be S3, even though it doesn't have to be S3 that comes from us. It can be S3 that comes from another part of infrastructure. But that is mostly because of the CDN setup. If you want to have a good experience playing, playlists of 100 videos that have timeline, that have cuts, and that have all of this stuff, if you're not going through CDN, you're going to have a bad time. And most of the CDNs on the market will require you to connect S3 in the backend. So there's on the AYON level, it's possible to do it in quite a few ways. In realistic scenarios of IT infrastructures, you're probably best off with S3. But there's nothing blocking you necessarily to do it differently.
Thanks. And thanks for the whole presentation.
Thank you. So I think we'll need to cut off, but as I said, we'll be around all day. So if anyone wants to see how all of this can be set up within an hour, this is going to be a live demo after me. They always go well, right?